Welcome back to another episode of Wholala.
Wholala. I think it was the first time we've actually said the title of this podcast in the podcast.
Yes, because we only came up with it after the last episode.
True.
So excited to be giving our reaction to The Power of the Doctor mere minutes after it just aired.
We literally turned it off, came here, and started recording.
We're such irritating people.
I know. Churning out content.
You don't live alone, and there was screaming happening in that episode.
There was. I feel sorry for my neighbours upstairs. They had a lot of screaming in the last 90 minutes.
Yeah, your boyfriend was kind enough to film our reaction to the last 10 minutes. And, it's like watching two little kids. It's really embarrassing.
Genuinely. I feel like I've sort of been transported back to, 2008, watching the finale of that series, the amalgamation of everything we'd watched as a kid, and I was like, this is what I was meant to be watching.
Yeah, and I think looking at the Twitter reaction, I think there's already a huge emphasis on kind of what's happening next. I mean, rightly so, it's really exciting that David Tennant and Catherine Tate are coming back to the show. Ncuti Gatwa is joining as the 15th Doctor, it turns out.
Oh yeah, officially 15th now.
And I do, however, think there were some really good moments in The Power of the Doctor that deserve talking about.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That's where we're going to jump in first, but of course we'll talk about our thoughts about the ending and the quote shock regeneration, even though I
know, even though we all saw it coming.
I think we did see that coming.
Alasdair, what did you think of this episode as a whole?
I think it was a fairly classic, slightly overstuffed, slightly convoluted episode that was difficult to follow. And I think we really both did our best to follow this.
Oh, we were fully paying attention. We had subtitles on. If someone was talking, we were pausing it to make sure we weren't missing anything.
Shut up a minute.
Literally.
I'm trying to pay attention.
And I still think there were a lot of loose plot points. There were a lot of things that weren't explained.
There was a lot of telling, not showing, but I think that made it harder to follow because there was so much kind of quick babble being thrown.
So to sort of dive into it, there are three villains at play in this episode. There's the Masters, there's the Cybermen or the Cybermasters, and the Daleks. And I feel like we were told why they were all there, but it was so quick. I certainly missed why the Daleks were there, and I still don't know. And we never saw within the episode any reason for them to be there. Why are they helping the Doctor? Sorry, why are they helping the Master? Why are they there in the first place? Why does one Dalek want to help the Doctor?
Yeah, I think the explainer was supposed to be that the Daleks and the Cybermen together hate the Doctor so much they'd rather kind of unite to try and kill the Doctor than fight each other. I did really like it. I thought it was a kind of fun roller coaster. The highlight for me was definitely the old companions coming back.
Oh.
And not just Ace and Tegan, though I thought they were so good, and specifically Tegan. I giggled every time she was on screen. She made me laugh. I need more of her.
It was the quips for me. It was when she said, "Oh, rabbits!
Oh, rabbits!
Why would the Doctor leave a toy for me? That's not a fond memory."
It's not a fond memory. She was really funny. There was also a couple scenes when she was doing the FaceTime with Ace where she kind of looked like she was reading her lines from the phone. She really made me laugh. They had poor Miss Janet Fielding falling down elevator shafts. They had her wielding big machine guns. They had... Did they? No, they didn't. I was going to say, did they have her parachute? That was only...
They were going to. That was only Ace.
Only Ace. Yeah, it was really fun. And what I really, really loved was the ending at the very conclusion of the episode with all of the companions kind of forming something of a support group. I thought that was such a lovely idea and such a nice way to allow some of these companions to bow out.
As soon as we realised that they were going into a kind of Companions Anonymous sort of setting with Graham, we were just like, oh my God, who else is going to be there? There's no way it's just the ones who've been following this episode. Who else is there?
Yeah.
And we saw Joe Grant back, and we saw Bonnie Langford and Ian Chesterton. Oh my God, it was so amazing to see them all. The Doctor was brought back to Earth because there was a plot from the Master involving both the Cybermen and the Daleks to force the Doctor to regenerate into a version of the Master, to sort of use her regenerations to take her body. The question poses, why?
Yeah, I don't know why they were okay helping with this plan, because it didn't really annihilate the Doctor, it just granted the Master the Doctor's body, which doesn't feel like something that the Daleks and Cybermen would necessarily be on board with, given that they've both at different times tried annihilating kind of all the Time Lords. No?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of their thing, right? Is upgrading
people and
genociding
everyone. And I don't see also the benefit for the Master, because I think one thing that we've learned through previous seasons with the Master is that he doesn't really want to kill the Doctor. It's the yin and the yang. There's no Doctor without the Master.
There's a game.
Vice versa. There's a game, and he likes the chase. And I feel like Missy was such a great way of showing that. Like, when she had the opportunity to wipe out the Doctor, she didn't want to. She didn't want to. And when she faced her past version of herself, the John Sim Master, and he was a younger version of her, really willing to just murder the Doctor, and she's like, no, we need him, like, we need each other. It did feel a bit odd that we've suddenly gone back to, no, I'm going to kill you, you're my enemy. And also in a plot like this where the Master wants to steal the Doctor's regenerations, what's the point? Like, it's not as though the Master was dying, it's not as though the Master needed the body.
No, there wasn't an immediate need presented. Maybe that would have made more sense if the Master was kind of like, I'm dying and I've run out of lives and this is kind of my last ditch effort to prolong my life is to kill you. Yeah, I want to say as well, I really love Sasha's Master. I think is such a good portrayal.
You really show the insanity.
Yeah, and I think just like added a lot of like colour and just a really cool portrayal of it. And I think it was really hot
when he does successfully steal the Doctor's generations and the Master ends up in the Doctor's outfit.
Yeah.
It was so hot.
So good.
The thing with the earring.
Something about the little like short haircut and the earrings and like the crop trousers. I was like, I'm
really turned on.
I'm really attracted to this right now. I don't really want this to end.
It just got better because once he ditched that outfit, he then wore the outfit that resembled different parts of each previous Doctor's outfit. So like the celery and the recorder and David's tie and I just thought that was such a cool outfit.
I thought that was a really, really lovely nod back to some of the previous Doctors.
Speaking of,
we should really get into this. This is such, for me, an underrated moment in the episode that I really honestly think was so genius, so made me feel all fuzzy and lovely. So it's kind of almost implied that when a Doctor regenerates, they almost go to this kind of spiritual place where the kind of one of their past kind of incarnations
guides them on the way.
Yeah, they kind of almost like go somewhere to kind of, be guided through the regeneration and kind of go and rest somewhere. There's kind of weird spiritual space. And you have a few of the older Doctors. You have Colin Baker. You had
David Bradley back as the first Doctor.
Yes, you had
Sylvester McCoy, Peter Davison, Paul McGann.
Yes, and I wondered if there were going to be more than that, actually, but a great selection anyway.
Well, it was great because I feel like this 50th anniversary special had the nod to Tom Baker, and I felt quite sorry for the other classic Doctors because they had all quite openly said they would love to come back for the show for an anniversary special. They all really want to be a part of it, and the script didn't allow it in the 50th. And so from 5 onwards, it went through all of the classic Doctors, and I just thought that, and bringing David Bradley back again because he was obviously a part of Peter Capaldi's regeneration episode, it was just such a nice way of including all these Doctors without feeling like you need to de-age them or having to address why they'd look different.
Yes. I really, really loved it. What's funny as well is I think a lot of those Doctors, now that they have got a bit older, those actors, they have such kind of charismatic portrayals of the Doctor. They are so distinctive.
I think a big part of that as well is that most of them, if not all of them, are doing big Finish productions where for audio dramas I think you do need to overact a bit, so I think they're kind of bringing a part of that into their performances now, and it is almost them playing a caricature of their Doctor. But I loved it, and it was so sweet as well that obviously Tegan was with the 4th and 5th Doctor and Ace was with the 7th, that when later in the episode they brought in the AI version of the Doctor to kind of help them on the adventure, it adjusts to whoever's looking at it, and so Tegan got to have the conversation with the 5th Doctor in costume, and Ace got to have the conversation with the 7th Doctor in costume, and they both got to kind of reconciliate after having not seen them for so long. And I just thought that was such a beautiful way of like rounding those moments.
I feel like that's definitely going to be a controversial choice, the introduction of kind of an AI Doctor. It's definitely something that people are going to get angry about, I fear. I also loved it. I really don't have any qualms with it. I thought it was really sweet and a really like interesting way to allow those interactions to happen. Again, I can't really think of a better way they could have done that.
No. When the Doctor re-met Ace and Tegan for the first time and it was that weird like cold awkward silence, I was in my head a bit like, I don't as a viewer believe this is Ace and Tegan meeting the Doctor again. It feels like Ace and Tegan meeting Jodie Whittaker, and I think that it was so important and so I didn't see it coming to have those scenes where they are speaking to their Doctors again, and the fact they could get them back and they were in costume, and even though it wasn't truly the Doctor, it was the AI version, I just thought that was such a great way to sort of close this chapter. I thought it was such a great way to close their chapter and like have them come to terms with their past.
Yeah, I felt the same way. When we got that kind of awkward kind of reintroduction, I thought that was how they were going to kind of leave it, was like they would get a 10 minutes with the Doctor and it'd be a bit frosty. That's another thing I really, really liked about this episode, is they actually gave Ace and Tegan a really decent run.
Yeah,
through the
they
episode.
did. Yeah.
I thought they were going to cameo and die.
From the trailers, you saw Ace jumping from the building, but Tegan was nowhere to be
Tegan
seen.
wasn't there.
And I was like, they're going to kill
I was like,
Tegan.
they've just blown up beloved Tegan.
And they didn't, thank God.
I was sure they would. And I thought Kate was going as well. And
I was for sure Kate was going to be converted from the trailers and stuff.
yeah, I was really pleased to see that Unit is kind of back up and running in this as well. Earlier in the Chibnall era, they kind of deleted Unit for a period. They were like,
Yeah.
oh, budget cuts. And it was like, huh? And they seem to have undone that now, which is nice. And
It was when we watched the episode, Alistair pointed out, he was like, I wonder what landmark that is. And I was like, it's a fake one.
It's a fake building, which also implies that Unit not only doesn't have budget issues anymore, they have so much budget that they don't think twice about, let's nuke this thing. Because as soon as they're like, guys, like this cyber thing is not going well.
We're just gonna blow it up.
Reinforcements, by the way, they were meant to be coming. She's like, reinforcements are on the way. You won't get away
coming.
from it. They're coming for you. And I don't think she was even bluffing. I think she really thought help was coming.
It never did.
No. They go outside. There's not one single siren. There's not one single guy on the pavement. There is nothing. There is just like one person eating a sandwich.
Yeah, literally, like not batting
Everyone
an
is
eyelid.
so unaware. No one was coming, babe. No one was coming.
Oh, bless him. I'm really glad that they gave Dan the out that they did. A lot of people thought he was going to be killed off at the beginning of the episode.
Including me.
Yeah, I think so.
I thought that was the end of Dan, for
Yeah.
sure.
And I'm glad that it wasn't, but I think that it was necessary. I think he was one plot point too many, and I also think that he had kind of... Legend of the Sea Devils was like the last thing he needed to do, and I don't think he would have added anything more to this story. So I'm glad that they let him out early, and then we really got to, even though we did have a lot more companions join us on the way, focus a lot more on Yaz and the Doctor, and Yaz's emotional connection to the Doctor.
Yeah. Which, in a way, dare I say, also hits home for me that I do think the kind of one-on-one companion-doctor relationship does work the best. Mm-hmm. And I think that's always really fun. And I think maybe that was a good thing for them to have tried earlier on, but that didn't maybe work so well, was this kind of fam dynamic.
TARDIS team.
Because, yeah, I think what you ended up with was a lot of companions standing around without anything to say.
I do think that it worked really well, especially in Russell's first year now, to have one constant companion with the Doctor and then have TARDIS teams pop up. So he would have, say, the Doctor and Donna, but every so often Martha would join them, or that would be the Doctor and Rose, and every so often Captain Jack would join them. And I think that dynamic does make those episodes better.
For a trip.
Or two. But I do think that the one companion, one Doctor dynamic works very well.
Yes. Why was Vinda here?
Why was Vinda here? It really... I mean, I apologise. I love the actor who plays Vinda.
Why was Vinda here?
But why was Vinda here?
Coming
through a wormhole.
Coming through a wormhole. Why?
I've landed on this planet. There's two TARDIS. I'm like, why?
I think he was like tracking down the same thing, like the consciousness,
consciousness thing,
child,
yeah.
baby, floating octopus.
Why was it on that train?
Don't know.
As I said earlier, for an episode that like had so much of the Doctor just explaining to the audience what was happening,
Yeah.
there are still so many unanswered questions. I reiterate, why were the Daleks there? Why was that being in the train? Where was the train going? Like, there's just so many unanswered questions.
Yeah, and I think it's fine to leave some things unanswered, but a lot of like really critical, plot points didn't get maybe fleshed out.
20 minutes in, I was saying to you, I was like, I don't really know about this episode. There's a lot of plot points. I don't really care what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think that the fan service was enough for me to be like, okay, I'm back.
Yeah, some of the early reviews were definitely saying, I think that we felt, they said it's packed, there's a lot crammed in, but the fans are going to love it. And here we are, the fans. It was crammed, but we loved it.
We do. Let's talk about the future for a bit.
Yeah. Let me get my crystal ball here. Just... That was a crystal ball sound.
I think it's time to talk about the regeneration.
I think we can now talk about it. So I think a lot of us knew it was coming.
What did you think was going to happen, regeneration-wise, before you came into the episode?
I thought it would be what it was. I thought there would be this kind of, shock turning into David Tennant. Maybe it would look like it was she was splitting into two people at once. I didn't know that she would just turn into a costumed David Tennant in the way that she did.
That was really weird for me. I was sure that she was going to turn into David Tennant, or at the most start to turn into Shooty. Something goes wrong and she changes into Tennant.
Yeah.
I really don't understand, because this has never happened before, where the Doctor's clothes change with them.
Well, because he regenerated with a costume, I guess we have to assume that it's part of his flesh. So, given it's every cell regenerating, that is now a fleshy tie, a fleshy
jacket.
It's all dangling off him. If he tries to remove any of that, he dies.
Well, and we'll come to this in a second properly, but this is the 14th Doctor.
Yeah.
This David Tennant is not coming back as the 10th Doctor.
So I think that's one of the really interesting things now, is that we have a David Tennant Doctor who remembers Clara, Bill, name another companion.
Amy.
Rory.
River. Properly River.
Properly River.
Oh.
So I think it's going to be interesting to see if they go on that and push with that now, or if Russell tries not to lean too much on the things that have gone before and give it a little bit more of a fresh entry point for people with Series 15.
I think...
15? Do I mean Series 15? What series are we on? I have no idea what we're on
this
now.
will be Series 14.
Okay.
I think Flux was 13.
I don't know where we are.
Jodie regenerates into David. We have the classic, what? And we both knew it was coming when he, licked his gums. And we were like, the new teeth. And he was like, I know these teeth. Yeah. And I was like, yes, you know. Do you think that the 60th specials are going to be a lot more about Russell reflecting on his own era? Because obviously we know we're getting Donna back, Donna's family. Or do you think it will be a wholly new story with those characters? Or do you think we might be seeing other companions return, other Doctors come back? Ooh.
I think this is going to be a little bit of a fun romp around for the David Tennant and Catherine Tate fans.
The Usses.
And, I think it'll be a really fun 3, but I think it almost acts as a bit more of a break to almost say, let's wave off that era with love.
Yeah.
And then let's move on. And I feel like it may feel a bit more fresh from Shooty's era onwards. That being said, it looks like Shooty's going to appear in the...
I was
specials.
So surprised to see Shooty turn up in the trailer.
Can someone tell me what the hell is
going on? Oh, he looked fit.
He looks so... A little moustache... That must be the first moustache Doctor.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah. We've had, John Hurt's had a beard, but... Yeah.
I think we can also commonly say probably the most toned Doctor so far as well.
For sure.
I'm almost a little sad that we're moving on so fast to the next era. Obviously, we have to be looking ahead because a lot of this is about almost resuscitating the show. The followership has really dwindled. The IMDb ratings have really dwindled. I think the general interest is down. Apart from a few of the remaining embers
of the
still making
of the
podcasts. I really feel such an attachment to Jodie in the sense that I think she was such a warm person to be the Doctor.
Oh, I loved it.
And I remember one of the actors before saying, and it may be Matt Smith, I can't remember, but saying that, being the Doctor is so much more than just kind of acting the part. You also have to kind of be the face on the lunchbox, and you have to kind of always be on as well because you're representing such an important figure. And I think she did that part so well. I remember that message she did in lockdown.
That was one of the best things of her era. I really loved that.
She recorded that lovely little message kind of in her own wardrobe as a kind of don't be scared for kids during that first lockdown, which I think was really, really sweet. But a lot of that kind of stuff she did so well with so much genuine warmth.
I feel like now, certainly watching her go, it's kind of made me realise what we had with Jodie. And I want to go back and properly give her era the time it deserves. Because I do think, if I'm being honest, through no fault of Jodie's own, she was written at times to either be explaining to the audience what is happening in that moment, or to have one of the companions, like Graham or Dan, explain to her what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think that one criticism that I would have for her era, but I really do love her as a Doctor. I think that she is such a good Doctor, and I really hope that however they choose to go on with future seasons, they don't try and erase her past, even if they're not going to pick up all the storylines like The Timeless Child and things like that.
I think as well, it's worth saying, a lot of the heat that this whole Chris Chibnall era got is probably a little unfair. Like, I'm pretty sure that the I mean, can you imagine the weight of trying to carry a show like Doctor Who, like, you know, planning all those moving parts? I think as well, it's kind of widely felt that Chris Chibnall probably didn't especially want to take on the role of showrunner, and that maybe there was a little bit of a lack of kind of like continuity planning, whereas like maybe Stephen Moffat was a very obvious continuation to Russell
He really
T
wanted
Davies,
to, yeah.
and was very, very good at that, and almost stepped quite naturally into it.
Yeah.
But then perhaps kind of there wasn't such an obvious successor to Stephen Moffat.
I agree.
And he kind of almost got, I mean, I've heard, I don't know if that's true, that he almost got kind of begged to take it. And I imagine that was massive. And I think, yeah, I think some of the episodes that people pan in this era and they're like, that was abysmal, are really no worse than some of the dodgier episodes in seasons gone by. And there are bad episodes in every series.
Every series has bad episodes. No, we were having a conversation the other day about our least favourite episodes from old Who eras, and it's made us realise, like, every era has its good and its bad. And I think this has just been like that. I think this has been an era with highs and lows, but I really hope that other people do, and I will myself give it the time it deserves and give Jodie the time she deserves.
Yeah.
And Chibnall the time he deserves.
Can I be vulnerable?
You can be
On
vulnerable.
the pod. I liked The Timeless Child. Sorry. I thought it was a cool arc. I liked it at the time. It came out and people got pissed. I thought it was interesting. I'm sorry. I always thought it was cool.
I liked elements of it. So I don't think I love it as an entire plot point. I don't love the Masters link to it.
Yeah.
But I really love the introduction of Joe Martin. I do think it's an interesting thing to say the Doctor had previous regenerations they didn't know about.
What I liked that he tried to do with the Timeless Child,
Right.
who I thought, by the way, was what was hiding in that box on the bullet train,
That's what I thought
was
as well.
a baby Doctor.
Yeah.
Kind of glad it wasn't.
Yeah,
I
me
was
too.
kind of like, oh my god,
You're like, it's gonna do
they're
the
doing
time,
this.
so- yeah.
They want to do this right now.
Yeah.
It tries, right or wrong, to answer the question Doctor Who, which is kind of the premise.
Yeah, I mean,
Of the show.
It's literally the title of the show, but then in the same breath, I think every other showrunner and writer has been like, we don't want
That's
to know.
not a question you should ever know the
Yeah,
answer to.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that probably is the best way to
We've
do it.
had an episode called The Name of the Doctor,
Yeah.
and we still don't know
And
the
that was the
Doctor's
closest
name.
we ever got.
Yeah,
right?
I think
Because
so.
River said it. And no one
River
heard
kind
it.
of knows,
Yeah. I don't know why River knows.
The fourth Doctor, I think it was, did have a name, and he was like, "It's not my birth name, but people at home call me it." And he had it like another, like a nickname, but not a Doctor.
That it's not even like a big deal. It's just like, yeah, it's just like the one my parents use, but I go by Abby.
So, closing thoughts on the episode. What were your 3 favourite things?
3 favourite things. Tegan was camp as hell. She was so funny. We need more Australians in Doctor Who. That's my first thought.
Yeah, I think she was playing it dead serious.
She was playing it dead serious. It wasn't meant to be funny.
That isn't a fond memory.
It isn't a fond memory. Yeah, it didn't Simon like murder her grandma or something like that? And it's like,
that.
it's not a fond or her aunt. Oh
Yeah.
my god. Anyway, it is not a fond memory.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, dead. So good. My second thought is that it was a really beautiful exit for Jodie Whittaker. I'm glad that she went out on this kind of hopeful high. I think the Tag Your It was gorgeous, perfect, show-stopping, stunning. It's something I'm kind of over and I don't want to do again. It's this kind of like reluctance to regenerate.
I don't want to go.
I don't want it to go. I don't want to die. I refuse to change. We've done that to death. I'm sick of it. I'm bored of it. Get over it. We've done it in good ways. I'm bored of it. I'm over it.
No,
I'm over it.
I think that regeneration, it's just the end of a chapter. It's not a death. And I think that it was really great that she'd sort of come to terms with it and was hopeful. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think third and final thing, I thought the way they kind of established a kind of like little companion support network on Earth, and they didn't feel the need to kill off Dan and Yaz to kind of exit them from the show was nice.
Yeah.
I think we now expect people to die, and I'm glad that that's not how we're doing it every time, because it was almost for me becoming so grim for me that everyone who kind of chooses to go with the Doctor gets maybe a year or 2 with them and then brutally killed.
Yeah.
Or memory wiped or whatever.
For the sake of the story, they need to know that the companion's not just going to decide to turn up whenever they want. So they almost always have a definitive reason to end their tenure.
Yeah.
Whereas I like the idea, I don't think they'll do it much, but of like Martha, who consciously made a decision to leave and then
Yeah.
can come back if she wants. She can hop back in.
Yeah, because for me there was something unexplained about how dark it was that the Doctor kind of knew this was probably a death sentence to pick up these friends and take them on these dangerous journeys, but did it anyway. I didn't love that,
No.
because it felt like the Doctor was being really reckless with people, and I didn't understand that.
Well, even in this episode that played, I think that Dan, when his spacesuit gets the crack in the helmet, the Doctor doesn't bat an eyelid, doesn't even notice,
yeah.
and you really reflect on him for a second. He's like, I almost died, and this woman
and you didn't even
notice.
Yeah, I really like that. What were your 3 favourite moments?
I think certainly agree with everything you've said, but Mandip Gill's performance in this episode was just incredible. The headstrongness of Yaz when she was flying the TARDIS, the way that she reacted to the Master, and then certainly at the end when she realised the Doctor was going and she wouldn't be able to come with her.
It felt like that was like a real kind of like, you know,
the actress is
off-screen goodbye. Yeah, it felt like it was like a real like I'm really gonna miss this goodbye.
Exactly.
I really agree. I think Yaz established herself as one of the greats in this episode. I actually want to say that even maybe prior to this, for me, she was actually one of the less
she
memorable.
Solidified herself. The scene of her carrying the Doctor's like lifeless body back to the TARDIS.
That's badass.
I thought that was one of my favourite moments. The regeneration itself, I really loved how they'd upped the effects. They have kept it in the realm of what was done before, but really upped the ante. The wide shot, the regeneration energy bursting, lightning, the colours of it. I thought that was incredible.
It was gorgeous. The visuals in this whole episode, and to be honest, for the last few seasons, have been really, really stunning. This looked good enough to be, to me, bar maybe 2 shots where we went, ooh. Most of it, it was, cinematic. I feel like, cinematic, right? Like, it was, sure. I don't know if we're being naive, but to me it seemed like cinema.
Yeah,
it's like cinema quality, I thought. Like,
exactly.
I wouldn't blink if this was like a Marvel, Disney Plus project. It looked good enough.
The wide shot where the Doctor was regenerating on the cliff top, I just thought that was incredible.
Yeah.
And I'd say my last thing is the way that they harken back to classic Who, because this, all in all, it was obviously Jodie's last episode, but it was the 100th anniversary special for the BBC, and I thought it was really weighty when Tegan said to the 5th Doctor, what are you thinking about in the middle of this Cyberman battle? And he says Adric, because that, in the classic era, it wasn't that common for companions to die. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Adric was certainly one of, if not the first companion to just fully die. No coming back, no special rewrite, no Clara way out. And like the callbacks of having Ace beat up the Dalek with the baseball bat.
Yeah.
It really, really did feel like a celebration of Doctor Who as a whole, not just of new Doctor Who.
I agree. This was almost like a mini 50th.
Yeah.
And I think it was really, really good.
I
don't know what the reaction is going to be on Twitter. Honestly, like, we're pretty naive to that right now. I know that a lot of people were like, like a bit mixed about it. Like, looking at it as a glance, I really enjoyed it.
Coming fresh off of it, I thought it was certainly one of the best regeneration stories in Doctor Who, I would say.
Yes,
period.
Absolutely, completely, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thanks, dear listener, for joining us again.
Thank you for listening. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week when we will be reviewing Series 1, Episode 2, The End of the World.
See you soon.
Bye.